Okay, so we had quite a very interesting session class here at Grace Jiu-Jitsu Ilkley in our advanced master cycle classes, where we started teaching and really looking at things from more of a principle-based approach to learning in this particular class, which worked really well actually. You know, got some really good feedback, and I could really see how students then started thinking a lot more about principles. And again, there's always a thing about, should you learn more technical and be very detail orientated, or should you be thinking more about, having more of a principle based approach? Now again, obviously you do need both, because to start off with, then you do need techniques. Okay, you need the techniques because then you need to understand how to apply those techniques, and then once you understand the techniques, then you can start to look at how to attach those principles to that. And also, eventually, once you start understanding the principles and you then go back to the techniques, it's like, wow, I'm seeing this technique from a totally different perspective, and that technique then becomes a window to lots of different principles. You're creating lots of amazing and breakthrough kind of experiences with your learning with Jiu-Jitsu in that way as well. So obviously, you do need to do both. But again, if you're just solely very technical, which again it's not wrong, but if you're very detailed, technical, that's your style of learning, which is not wrong style. It can sometimes get quite frustrating, because again, sometimes then you'll start learning things from over, okay, this is a prescribed technique. So for example, for me to get this outcome, I need to do this step, that step, this step, that step, and then I'll get to this. Okay? Learn the steps, learn the details of the techniques, and think about all the different things you need to do in between that, which again is not wrong. However, if it came to a situation where maybe, I don't know, you had to defend yourself, or you were just sparring with your friends at the training center, for example, you got to think Jiu-Jitsu is very dynamic. Fights are very dynamic. Life in general is just dynamic. Things are changing all the time. There's always things. There's so many variables with certain things. You're going to react a certain way. If you're sparring with someone, then obviously they're going to react to a certain way. Maybe not the exact same way that you predicted sometimes. And if you miss one of those steps, or a couple of those steps, well, how do I get to this step? And okay, well, this one's missed, and okay, look, they've done this now, so what am I supposed to do here? And again, from that perspective, it could potentially get quite, frustrating and a demoralizing experience. And you can still learn that way, but then it's almost like an uphill kind of struggle, just kind of getting through all that, details and technique. Whereas if you've got more of a principle-based approach, again, it really optimizes your ability to solve problems in any situation, any position you find yourself into, whether it's a submission, whether it's an escape, whether it's position, anything at all controls your ability to solve that problem is very, very much optimized, very, very enhanced just by understanding those principles. Because now I'm not thinking about, well, I need this detail and that detail. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to use, for example, the frame principle, which is substituting muscular strength, which I don't have a lot of, but substituting muscular strength for skeletal, bone structure. I'm going to use these frames. I'm not thinking I need to bring my arm up to this degree and that degree, use a thumb full grip and this and that. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use my frames. Okay, I'm going to use my skeletal bone structure here with the frame principle. Again, I then might execute an escapes, utilizing the momentum principle, getting, using some momentum to get through, and then the mobility principle, and eventually, maybe get into a submission where I'm using disproportionate of my own resources on one specific part of an opponent's body to get a submission. Obviously, there's principles there, and I think it's a great thing. We're so lucky, with Gracie University and Henry on here, and that they've labeled and put together all 32 principles so that we can actually, we've actually got a name to these principles so we can learn them. And again, it's just a very good, very good approach to learning. We've had a very fun class and a lot of success with it. Like for today, in our last class, we was looking at, for example, the fork principle. So what we did, we took a position, and basically the fork principle is creating positional dilemmas for our opponent, and obviously basically within those, that positional dilemma, whichever way they go, they're pretty much going to choose how they lose, because we've got an outcome, and we've got I guess a prong off each fork. to be able to, to put our opponent into whatever situation. We pretty much want them to through that fought. So we got to, we did a position, and the discussions are, okay, well, if I'm in this position, what can the opponent do? They can lean back. Maybe they can put their foot up. Maybe they're going to place their arm out for base. We're putting them in this positional dilemma, and then looking at all the different outcomes that we can go to, that we already know ahead of time can happen from that. Okay, so whatever position they go into, obviously they're going to lose. They go this way, they're going to get swept. They go this way, they're going to get triangled. They go this way, they're going to get an arm lock, for example. And that was really good. And then we also did it just at the end, as like a little bit of a slice at the end. Sometimes we do rapid mastery drills where we start to kind of really test and sharpen things up. What we did this one, after learning the principle, or going through the discussions and practicing some techniques that that I'd put together through the fork principle, was then, okay, get into your pairs, get into partners, and now, based on that fork principle, let's see if you can create your own fork, your own prongs. So just get together, have a discussion. So again, we've gone into depth about the fork principle and this principle, and then students were getting together, having discussions, figuring things out for themselves, and then we asked if people could come out and show some examples of what they'd put together in the partnerships. And it was really good to see how we're taking something that just could have just been a simple class about, we're going to learn this technique, and that's the technique, whereas and then talking about it through the principle based approach, and then getting them together and figuring a few things out for themselves, really seem to enhance their understanding of jiu-jitsu in general. So yeah, it's a great way to learn, and definitely be doing a lot more of that kind of learning as well, I think, within the master cycle classes. So that was really good as well. So yeah, it's basically love the 32 principles. It's like you learn techniques. So I guess it's like if you're going to bake a cake, for example, you need to learn, or you need to know what the ingredients are first, the techniques. Then obviously you need to know how to apply those ingredients and put things together, and then before you know it, you're making your own cake. That's kind of how I see things from there. We're making and creating our own jiu-jitsu based on the techniques and the principles and everything we're learning. But yeah, just thought I'd share that. So yeah, really great class, and again, really love the principle based approach to learning, basically.